Start recording. Awesome. So yeah, hello everybody, and this is the sixth class in our series. So I will just get the pen ready. Yeah, awesome. Okay. So this is the sixth class in our series. Today we are going to be mainly talking about use cases. जो भी use cases हो रहे हैं, all of these various things which are happening in the world of blockchain today. I'm not going to be talking about use cases which might happen 5 years, 10 years down the line, because that I feel is sort of useless to talk about. It's always good to talk about what's happening in today's current scenario, because that way you can actually like Google things up about it and you can find out how things are working and stuff. So for that reason, today we'll be talking about that. And then after that, we are going to have a talk about wallets, how wallets work, like cold wallets, hot wallets. You guys might have heard of these terms. And finally, we'll also talk about the Indian like situation, about how like the like how to buy crypto in India, why to buy crypto in India in the first place, and then what is the scene with the ban in India. So we'll have a talk about that, and then we can just have an open forum about kya chal raha hai and things like that. So yeah, without any further ado, let's get started. Use cases. This is something which I rushed last time because I had to. I had a hard stop at 10:30, but unfortunately, thoda extend ho gaya tha. So I'll quickly cover that up again. So the problem with land titles in today's day and age is flawed paperwork and forged signatures. For example, somebody can make a fake title deed like this and just claim that the house you own is his. So that forgery can happen. And because these are all paper documents, there is a possibility for things like this happening. And when it comes to this, enforcement is also key, because at the end of the day, if that person decides to go to the law, that person takes you to the court, then at that point the central government authority steps in, and if this government authority is not powerful enough, they will not be able to handle this properly. And with these problems come these pitfalls where the officials are corrupt. For example, if there's a person who is sort of threatening you, saying कि अच्छा ठीक है मेरे पास तुम्हारे घर का title deed है, and if that person has contacts within the officials, then you're essentially screwed. Like there is nothing you can do unless you are able to like properly fight it legally. That itself is a huge problem, because like officers accept bribes and things like that. And there are chances when the government has other things to focus on. Like for example, there might be a war, there might be a famine. Your case is essentially not important, or even right now there's a pandemic going on. The government at that point does not have the sort of ability to focus on all of these things at that current moment. So for that reason, these are the pitfalls which happen in paper land titles, like land title deeds, which sort of look like this. So, and yeah, citizens are usually mistrustful of non-government organizations or government organizations in general when the government can't support these things. So for that reason, you can use blockchain. As we spoke about, it provides an ability to create digital signatures, and it gives full transparency on every transaction that's happened. Like if I were to buy a particular flat from a builder, then I'll be able to see when that building started construction, when that flat was sold to me, all of the transactions that happened throughout that process, everything will be seen. Finally, there's also immutability, in the sense that once I sell you a house, then since that transaction is going to be recorded on the blockchain, I can't go around like a day later saying कि अच्छा ठीक है, I never sold you that house, because it's legally like on that chain, like, and we consider this chain as that source of truth. So for that reason, this immutability comes in handy. So ensuring that all of these, like basically these scams don't happen in terms of like land and everything, that is where the immutability comes into play. And finally, limit centralization. This is just something which will increase the efficiency of the world a lot. For example, right now, whenever we have all of these conversations regarding the land uses and everything, usme kya hota hai? I need a authority who is going to sign off on the papers. I need another guy who's going to do all of these things. So for that reason, it's better to have a system where all of these middlemen are just cut out completely. And something like blockchain can help in that, because if I were to buy a house from you, it will just be a transaction. For example, there'll be a house ka, let's say a title deed, and wo directly buy and sell ho jayega, where I just send you that money as a transaction and you send me that house. There won't be some person in between where you have to go to a registrar's office, फिर उसके fees, फिर उसके बाद मतलब vehicle के case में RTO का fees, मतलब that stuff just won't happen. So that's the solution which blockchains provide. And yeah, that's what I meant by making a transaction or like on Bitcoin. So for example, if a house costs 1 lakh rupees, then I'll just send that 1 lakh rupees from owner A to owner B, and owner B just sends that house ka ownership ka whatever document on the blockchain. And since all of these transactions are going to be stored and everybody can see it, then once this happens, this is verifiable publicly. So that is what I mean by it becomes a very simple mechanism for transfer. So this land titles can then be extended to other property as well. So one caveat here is obviously that it's only as good as the information which is fed to it. And we in blockchain it's called garbage in, garbage out. So if you feed bad information into the chain, then you're going to get bad information out. So being able to verify the transactions which happen at the source are important, and that all creates a certain level of centralization. मतलब तुम्हें sort of देखना पड़ता है कि जो ये person जो घर भेज रहा है, तो बेच रहा है तुम्हें, that person is legit or not. तो verification थोड़ा off chain तुम्हें personally करना पड़ता है. But once that verification का initial step is done, उसके बाद all the consecutive steps become easy. So the blockchain is just as good as the information fed to it, but as long as ये इधर sort हो रहा है, it's not an issue. So that's there. So there are a few countries which are doing this. ये मैंने बताया था कि yeah. So ये मैंने बताया था कि all of these Scandinavian countries, North European, Eastern नहीं, ये Western है countries सारे, North Western countries I feel, Scandinavia वगैरह, Sweden वगैरह, all of these are like they're always on the forefront of technology. And there's one more country to add here actually. It's called Estonia. I don't know how many of you have heard of it, but Estonia is also doing amazing things in the field of blockchain. तो ये भी तुम देख लेना. Like Estonia, I think created the first voting system on blockchain. So Estonia का model is also really cool. In fact, हमारे campus में we were actually creating a blockchain based system. हम मतलब me and a few more friends were creating a blockchain based system for voting. Like तुम्हारे कॉलेज में ऐसे होता होगा कि presidential voting होता है, तुम्हारे इधर like they might be called secgen or whatever. So उसके voting के लिए you need a system जहाँ पे every single person's vote is counted, but at the same time you need to create a way in which case the identities are secure, in the sense that nobody should be able to see कि मैंने किसके लिए वोट किया है, but I should be able to verify कि मेरा वोट like count हो गया है. And secondly, people should also be able to see कितने लोगों ने वोट किया है. Like they don't need to know at a granular level कि अथर्व ने वोट किया है या नहीं, बट दे कैन स्टिल टेक अ ब्रॉड स्पेक्ट्रम व्यू कि अच्छा ठीक है, कितने फर्स्ट ईयर राइट्स ने वोट किया, कितने सेकंड ईयर राइट्स ने वोट किया, थिंग्स लाइक दैट. So to create a system like that where identities were sort of hidden, we used blockchain technology, and it was a good project. Like we were able to deploy it and things like that. That was based on the model which Estonia uses for voting. तो एस्टोनिया का जो मॉडल है वोटिंग के लिए, इट्स अ वेरी रोबस्ट मॉडल, एंड यू गाइस शुड चेक इट आउट. सो देख लो मतलब कभी जब तुम्हें टाइम मिले. It's a really good thing. So yeah, that it's a really cool country, and they're doing not just voting pay, they're doing citizenships on the blockchain and things like that. It's really cool. And if successful, all of this can be extended to all other entities. मतलब then if houses work, then you can do it for cars. तो तुम्हारी कार का ओनरशिप आरटीओ बीच में आएगा ही नहीं, यू कैन जस्ट डायरेक्टली ट्रांसफर इट एंड थिंग्स लाइक दैट. सो दैट इज वन थिंग. one more thing I wanted to add is I don't think मैंने कल बताया या नहीं, but India में Chandigarh is also doing this. So Chandigarh being a new city, they have all the land records of every single owner of every single house right from independence. So for that reason, they are putting all of those records on the blockchain, and it's a pilot project. मतलब बस try कर रहे हैं, चल रहा है या नहीं. इंडिया का नीति आयोग जो है, like the sort of innovation wing of the Indian government, they are trying that, and if it works well, then they are going to like extend it to other cities hopefully. But they're doing a lot of cool things. In fact, नीति आयोग is also doing one more really cool thing. इंडिया में क्या होता है, you need to show proof कि तुम्हारा जो ये bachelor's degree या master's degree होता है, when you like complete your education, that is valid or not. You have to prove that, because बहुत लोग बहुत झूठ बोलते हैं कि like anybody here can say कि अच्छा I am studying in BITS Pilani, मतलब क्या ही फर्क पड़ता है तुम्हें, nobody is going to go and nobody is going to verify it. But when you're applying to jobs, the companies which are verifying it, they need to ensure कि तुम्हारे जो सारे तुम लोगों ने बोले हैं रेज्यूमे पे जो भी चीजें हुए हैं, that needs to be true. And the first thing that they check is, are you actually from the college which you say you're from? So to ensure that, you can either show like a PDF of your like a graduation ka degree, or like all of that stuff you can show, but at the end of the day everything can be forged. The only thing which they can sort of trust in is a sort of blockchain like system. And ISB जो है अपना Indian School of Business and the Indian government, they're actually working on a system like this which will connect to DigiLocker. तो if you guys know, DigiLocker पे सारे तुम्हारे 10th standard 12th standard के marksheets मिल जाते हैं, not just CBSE but सबके. Like I'm from state government, मतलब मेरा 12th standard में it was state board और 10th standard तक ICSE था. उन दोनों के भी मिलते हैं उस पे. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to tie up all of these certificates onto a blockchain, and that way it becomes a verifiable source. So that's also something really cool which is happening. So ये जो other properties है वो सब उसमें add होने वाले हैं. So yeah, that's there. So where are we now? We are going to look at the current use cases, and we are only going to look at the current places of opportunity, as I said. So the first thing is exchanges. तुम्हें पता होगा there are two kinds of exchanges. There is a decentralized exchange and there is a centralized exchange. So I'll just quickly explain what this means. Centralized exchange ऐसी चीज होती है जहां पे there is a company which is going to handle all of the trades for you. Okay. Binance, Coinbase, zero था मतलब shares के लिए, but whatever. WazirX, CoinSwitch Kuber. All of these are centralized exchanges because on there you have to do a KYC to get in. That is the major difference between these two. Centralized exchanges पे तुम्हें KYC करना पड़ता है, otherwise you cannot do trades. Okay. And CoinSwitch, okay, yeah. And decentralized exchanges are a bit different. Decentralized exchanges पे you don't have to do any KYC, so no KYC. Okay. So how do you think you can do trades here? अगर तुम्हें KYC नहीं करना है तो फिर कैसे करोगे? So for that you use your own wallet, something like MetaMask or any other kind of wallet. And what you do is you directly use that to hold your funds and transact on this. So Uniswap, DYDX, these are all very big decentralized exchanges, whereas centralized exchanges are things like Binance and Coinbase. Yeah, Aman says, yeah, like trust wallets essentially. So the major difference which happens in a decentralized exchange and a centralized exchange under the hood, and this is very important to understand because बहुत लोगों को ये distinction पता नहीं होता है. तुम जब decentralized exchange पे कोई trade करते हो, that happens through your own account. तुम्हारा जो उस Ethereum chain पे खुद का जो account है, उससे trades होते हैं. And for that reason, it goes completely through the Uniswap ka algorithm, let's say, and it gets committed to the main chain directly. Okay. And for that reason, it takes more time. So it's slower. Okay. So it's slower, but it sort of gives you full control over your funds. तो तुम्हारे funds तुम्हारे ही हाथ में है. All of this is happening through your own personal account. So that is the difference between, so that is the decentralized exchange. Centralized exchange में क्या होता है? They have like 10-15 wallets, they have 10-15 accounts जहां पे सारे फंड्स सबके स्टोर होते हैं. फॉर एग्जांपल, तुम जब नया अकाउंट बाइनेंस पे बनाते हो तब ऑल ऑफ द फंड्स यू बाय दे डोंट गो टू योर ओन अकाउंट. लाइक अथर्वस अकाउंट ऐसे नया बनता नहीं है बाइनेंस में. बाइनेंस हैज अ सेट ऑफ लाइक 10-15 अकाउंट्स व्हिच दे टेक केयर ऑफ द सिक्योरिटी ऑफ, दे बेसिकली टेक द लायबिलिटी ऑफ इंश्योरिंग कि ये हैक नहीं होता है, थिंग्स लाइक दैट. बट एट द सेम टाइम it does not give you full granular control over your funds. Okay. And that creates a problem because if Binance one day decides to run away with your money, there's nothing you can do about it. So that is one thing. Whereas यहाँ पे ये तो सारा तुम्हारे ही wallet में है. So all of it is under your control. But what you're trading for that is very high speed. तुमने देखा होगा कि ये जो मैं block time इतना सब बोल रहा था, Binance पे if anybody has ever bought Bitcoin, सारे transactions तुम्हारे जो Binance के होते हैं, they happen in like a few seconds. Like when you put a transaction in, you get the Binance, the BTC and everything directly inside your account in a few seconds. So how would that work when it takes 90 minutes for like whatever Bitcoin ka 6 blocks to run and things like that? So the reason for that is ये जो सारे transactions होते हैं, there is an algorithm which Binance uses where they are trying to match trades. It's just like the share market. For example, अगर समझो मैंने 1 Bitcoin बेचा, but at the same time, let's say Aman decided to buy 1 Bitcoin. Then instead of committing both the transactions to the main chain, it's just going to match that, nullify कर देगा, and net जो भी है वही चीज after a settlement period credit या debit कर देता है main chain में. So in our case, the net thing was zero. That's why it won't do anything on the actual main chain. बस हमारे अकाउंट में जो बैलेंस है उनके सर्वर पे मेरे इधर -1 कर लेगा, अमन के इधर +1 करेगा. बट इफ देयर इज लाइक अ डिफरेंस, फॉर एग्जांपल मैंने 2 खरीदे बट अमन ने 1 बेचा, सो देन वो +-1 हो जाएगा, एंड जो दूसरा 1 है दैट विल एक्चुअली बी कमिटेड फ्रॉम द मेन चेन. So that is how Binance and Coinbase work. That's why they are very fast, but you're trading that speed and that convenience for control and centralization, obviously. So that is the main difference between centralized and decentralized exchanges. Any questions here? Okay, cool. So I think we'll move on. अगर किसी को कोई questions होंगे तो डाल दो. Pranav is asking, yes, Exodus and MetaMask I think are similar. So yeah, cool. Let's move on. So let's move on to DeFi. The DeFi is like probably one of the biggest use cases which you guys are seeing like around. And the reason for that is, I think मैंने पहले भी बताया था, the most like the easiest use cases to put onto any network are the ones where they are easily transferable and they have a reason to do it. So for example, the best example was वो western union वाला. याद है कि western union में से if I want to send some money from US to India, then that takes a lot of middlemen. It takes a huge cut, things like that. So instead of that, if you find another system जहाँ पे ये सारे हाई स्पीड से होगा और कट कम लगेगा, then that's a better system than Western Union. So these are all financial instruments and all of them are very easy to basically move to like a DeFi space, मतलब decentralized blockchains पे डालना, because every single thing which is happening in the finance space that can be created in a parallel way on the space. इट्स जस्ट द नेचर ऑफ इट कि जो भी सारे ट्रांजैक्शन हो रहे हैं वो सारे यहाँ पे हो सकते हैं. अगर नॉर्मल सेंट्रलाइज फाइनेंस में यू कैन हैव कॉल ऑप्शंस, फ्यूचर्स, डेरिवेटिव्स, तो फिर डिसेंट्रलाइज फाइनेंस में भी ये सब हो सकते हैं. सो फॉर दैट रीजन मूविंग दीज थिंग्स फ्रॉम हियर टू देयर आर वेरी इजी. सो दैट्स व्हाई DeFi इज सच अ बिग डील. ये तुमने देखा होगा, पेमेंट्स तो अपना नॉर्मल बिटकॉइन वगैरह वो सब तो पेमेंट्स ही है. फिर कस्टोडियल सर्विसेज आर बेसिकली वॉलेट्स. तो तुम्हारा मेटामास्क आ गया, तुम्हारा बैलेंस आ गया, एटसेट्रा. इन्वेस्टिंग अपना नॉर्मल जो होता है लॉन्ग टर्म इन्वेस्टिंग टाइप्स. Then marketplaces is usually for NFTs, and OpenSea is the largest NFT marketplace, so that's a big deal. Prediction markets, we'll be talking about it. Lending and crediting, we'll talk about it, but to give a example, lending and crediting is just अपना जो banking system होता है ना, loans लेना देना, that is this. Stable coins essentially are coins where the value is pegged to some certain fiat thing. So for example, DAI or USD coin or Tether, all of these are coins which are supposed to represent and they're supposed to track the USD. So that is what stable coins are. KYC तो तुम्हें पता ही होगा क्या होता है. Derivatives are like some advanced like functions where you can essentially do some things to basically speed things up and gain leverage on your positions. इसके बारे में चाहिए तो मैं वीडियो डाल दूंगा. It's sort of hard to explain. Exchanges and liquidity, ये तो पता ही होगा. I spoke about Uniswap. These are all things like that. Infrastructure, infrastructure is a bit hard to explain in the sense that infrastructure तो सारा blockchain पे बना हुआ ही है, but these are things which sort of enable new systems and enable new startups to come up faster. For example, Gitcoin is one of the systems जहाँ पे you can essentially put forth an idea and you can get grants. तो तुम्हें grants मिलते हैं उसके लिए, and you can basically use that money to create your own like startup and things like that. So this is like an incubator. ये जो सारे incubators होते हैं, VC funds होते हैं वैसे. And insurance तो तुम्हें पता ही क्या होता है. So yeah, there are some questions in the chat. I'll go through them. Can coins be in fraction? Yes, yes, coins can be in fraction. In fact, ये जो मैंने gas का बताया था last time, one like the smallest unit of Ethereum is 10 power minus 18 ETH. So that's 0.000 whatever, 17 zeros और एक 1. So yes, they can be in fractions. Any Indian DEX? Indian DEX नहीं है. Indian centralized exchange है, WazirX है, और DEX तो अब तक नहीं बना है. So yeah. Cool, then let's move on to Web 3.0. So ये बहुत बड़ा buzzword बन चुका है आज के टाइम में कि यार Web 3.0 पे सब मूव हो रहा है. So I just wanted to give a brief overview of what 1.0 is, 2.0 is, and 3.0 is, ताकि you will get a very clear idea of what somebody means when they say Web 3.0 पे ये world जा रहा है. So Web 1.0 was basically like a global library. Archive हो रहे थे सब, like that's why I've put the word archive highlighted, because what was happening is storage हो रहा था सब चीजों का. सारी चीजें तुम ले रहे तो you guys were like the world was essentially creating blog posts, like websites were being created, but these websites were not very content rich. बस text होता था, max एक gif होगा, colors होंगे weird से, but that is it. बस websites बन रहे थे. So that is what the global library meant. So taking information and archiving it on the like the web. So that is what the global library meant, and that is what web 1.0 essentially meant. It is a very rudimentary form of like the web protocol and things like that. ज्यादा कुछ चीजें होती नहीं थी इस टाइम पे. Web 2.0 essentially started with the ability to create a system of content creation where anybody can see content which was created. This started with WordPress. तो WordPress was the first one जहाँ पे like तुम blog लिख सकते थे और वर्ल्ड में कोई भी देख सकता था. And then this moved on to any kind of content. Microblogging के लिए Twitter हो गया, Reddit for basically everything, YouTube for videos, Instagram for photos, anything that could be published and that could be considered content which wanted to be shown to many people in the world, that was basically Web 2.0. But the problem with this was all of these companies which were born out of it, they needed to store all of that massive amounts of data. So for that reason, they had to basically create server farms जहाँ पे terabytes of information होता है. All of that is stored on centralized servers, and that is where people started to question the power of these kind of companies. Because here, if a company decides to, like on purpose or not on purpose, if the server farm goes down, for example, एक server है जहाँ पे तुम्हारी website hosted है, and that is, let's say, in India में कोई random server farm, and that goes down, you have no say on like what should happen and things like that, because that server was never your own. And secondly, all of that data which is stored on all of those servers can be used maliciously by all of these companies. The best example I feel of this is Google Photos. जब तक Google Photos free था, तब तक every single photo which you guys have uploaded to Google Photos, that is probably being used to train some machine learning algorithm. And that might be used in a very like healthy way, that might be used in a very like moralistic way. Whoa, sorry. So that can be done, but on the other hand, it is also very possible that it might be used for a malicious intent, and that is not what you want. In fact, I think you guys might be surprised by the accuracy with which Google Photos ka wo face tagging feature works. Like once you sort of identify that this face is this person, it works so well to the point where even if that person's face is not well lit, आधा ही face दिख रहा है, that person is not looking directly into the camera, that like Google Photos is still able to tag that person properly, and that is like in my opinion very scary. So like looking at the way this data is used is a bit like it's questionable. That's what I'd say. So to put an effort on ensuring कि ये सब होता नहीं है, Web 3.0 sort of came about, and that is called a global data bank. I want to split this word into two, data and bank. So why is it called data bank? You are going to be able to store all of the data which is going to be a part of all of the sort of transactions you do now. Okay, for example, मैं कोई Instagram पे post करूंगा, like I'm saying the decentralized version of Instagram. So वहां पे if I post something, I'm essentially giving them my data. But now when I give them that data, I should also be able to use that in such a way that I am loaning that particular service, that data for that particular moment. For example, इंस्टाग्राम को इट्स एज इफ मैंने जो फोटो पोस्ट किया है वो मेरा ही है, आई ओन द होल फोटो, एंड वेन एवर आई वॉन्ट आई कैन टेक इट डाउन टू द पॉइंट वेयर उनके सर्वर से भी वो डिलीट कर पाऊंगा. दैट इज व्हाट डेटा बैंक मीन्स. You should be able to delete it from their remote servers as well when you want to delete it. And that power, that granular power on every single amount of data which you put out into this world is what Web 3.0 means. Web 3.0 does not mean blockchain. Blockchain is a part of Web 3.0. It's something which is going to facilitate the creation of Web 3.0. But Web 3.0 means creating a system जहाँ पे जो भी तुम्हारा data है, that is granularly controlled to the point where you can basically delete it, add it, like sell it as and how you, the user, wishes it to be. So that is what this means. Any doubts on this slide? Cool. I guess not. अगर होंगे तो chat में डाल दो. So yeah, now let's look at some Web 3.0 equivalents. तो क्या होता है? We are at Web 2.0 right now, and we want to move to Web 3.0, right? So there are going to be some equivalent opportunities which are created. So let's look at this particular thing. Brave browser is probably the biggest browser in today's day when it comes to Web 3.0. It's a very good browser. I really suggest you guys use it. I shamelessly use Web 2.0 ka Chrome because unfortunately I'm too heavily into the Google ecosystem, like Pixel hai and all of that stuff. But if you guys can use Brave browser, for sure use it. It's a very good browser. Then storage ke liye, I spoke about storage last time, where you are essentially partitioning a part of your hard drive and letting other people store stuff onto it, and you're basically paying for that storage. It's sort of like Google Drive. Skype जैसे होता है वैसे Web 3.0 में there's something called expertise. I don't know how this works actually. I also don't know how they make money. A lot of them are just like their projects for the sake of projects. I don't know what their like monetary system is, but there are alternatives is what I'm trying to say. EOS was a big deal. In fact, EOS was actually valued at 15 billion USD 2 years ago, 3 years ago. But now EOS is sort of dying. Like the project itself is not very like looked after and things like that. But it was a great idea in the sense that पूरा decentralized operating system होगा, जो भी सारी चीजें होंगे वो like all of the services from where you will download things, all of the network connections, they'll be decentralized. So it was a pretty cool idea, but I think it was too ambitious and too early. But yeah, let's see. I think there will be more OSs, so that is going to be really cool. Social networks, this is one thing which I was talking about, censorship resistance. This is very important, and this is one thing I feel is going to really change the way like things happen. So social media, like I'm sure if somebody is able to find the monetizability of a decentralized social network, then it is going to take off. Like a decentralized YouTube, जहाँ पे video upload होगी, no matter how controversial it might be, it won't be taken down. That is going to be a huge leap forward in terms of free speech, and that's where social networks are going to really excel. अभी है ये, I don't know how they work and I don't know how they make money, but they exist. Similarly, messaging के लिए status है. The only problem with status is, uh, you remember how I told you guys that every single transaction has to be stored on every single miner's memory? So imagine storing every single status users, every single message on every single computer. अब तुम्हारा अगर if anybody has noticed, WhatsApp takes a lot of memory on your phone. Like I'm sure मेरा WhatsApp probably takes like 5-6 GB, and I'm sure most of yours also do if you guys have used that phone for 1 to 2 years. So imagine that multiplied by the number of users on every single person's computer. That's going to be so hard to sort of store. That's going to be such a crazy problem to solve. So for that reason, I don't know how this will take off, but it's definitely a good idea. And finally, remote job जो भी Upwork type होता है वैसे Etlans type है. So yeah, that's there. Prince has asked, how can we create Web 3.0 web? So Web 3.0 web, I think I'll break the answer into two parts. The first part is infrastructure. Infrastructure या platform that is already there. For example, तुम्हारा जो Ethereum है, that itself is Web 3.0 का platform जहाँ पे you can build all of these applications. But the application itself is what is going to be really hard to build, and I don't know how that will happen. Like how can you create, I can say you can code it up using like Solidity, front end JavaScript वगैरह, उससे हो सकता है. But if your question is how can you like build it like from a sort of philosophical standpoint, I don't know. So yeah, moving on to voting. Votes is a company which is in Boston, Massachusetts, and they are essentially working on creating a system जहाँ पे ये जो सारा voting होता है that can be done decentralized. Okay, so it's going to be blockchain powered mobile voting, and it's a very cool concept because of the way they have implemented it. So you're going to have two parallel blockchains which are flowing. तो यहाँ पे let's say this is blockchain number 1, and यहाँ पे this is blockchain number 2. Okay, drawing light ले लो. So what is going to happen is the first one is going to be the identity chain, and the second is going to be a voting chain. I'll erase this and I'll make it a better drawing. Okay, never mind. I'm limited by my drawing capabilities. So yeah, this is going to be the identity chain, and this is going to be the voting chain. So how this works is very cool. Identity chain क्या करता है? याद है तुम्हारा जब वोटिंग के पहले, like if you guys, I don't know how many of you have voted before, because like the demographic of this is usually people under 21 or under 18, but क्या होता है, you guys have to get your voter ID card registered, and that process happens a few months before the election actually happens. तो उसके लिए तुम तो क्या होता है, ये जो लोकल तुम्हारे sort of governing bodies होते हैं, like तुम्हारा जो local corporator होता है, that person sends people to verify your identity कि तुम सही में यहाँ घर पे रह रहे हो क्या, things like that. And तुम्हारा आधार कार्ड पैन कार्ड टाइप देख के they give you a voter ID card, and that identification allows you to vote in the coming election. So this process happens a few months before the election takes place. And what will happen on the identity chain is, let's say I live in Pune and I am going to be voting from ये जो भी कोई ward है for लोक सभा elections. तो मेरा identity इस chain पे आ जाएगा. तो ऐसे सब लोग के identities यहाँ पे आ जाएंगे कि this person is allowed to vote. That's it. All that will happen on this chain is name and ability to vote in whichever constituency or whatever. That's it. And at a predetermined date, they are going to stop this blockchain. तो ये जो आइडेंटिटी चेन है वो रुक जाएगा आफ्टर अ पॉइंट. लाइक फॉर एग्जांपल, इफ द इलेक्शंस आर हैपनिंग इन जून, देन मे के लास्ट डे पे दे विल स्टॉप इट फ्रॉम ग्रोइंग. दैट मीन्स नो न्यू पीपल विल बी एडेड. तो वो एक सॉर्ट ऑफ सिक्योरिटी बन गया. एंड देन व्हेन इट कम्स टू द वोटिंग डे, what will happen is you can go to these booths, or you, like there might be an application जो तुम मोबाइल पे खोलोगे, वेरिफिकेशन हो जाएगा तुम्हारा उस मोबाइल पे. एंड देन ऑल इट विल डू इज इट विल फर्स्ट वेरीफाई विद दिस आइडेंटिटी चेन कि तुम्हारा नाम इस चेन पे है या नहीं. एंड ऑल ऑफ दीज अदर थिंग्स की आर यू अलाउड टू लाइक वोट इन दिस एरिया, थिंग्स लाइक दैट. वंस इट डज, देन तुम यूआई पे तुम्हारा वोट करोगे एंड देन वो वोट इस चेन पे आ जाएगा. ओके. And then once this voting period is over, this also will be stopped. So let's say this voting period goes for like 5 days. 6th day पे ये सारा रुक जाएगा and then ये counting चालू होगी. That creates a lot of security about how the voting system will work. And this is one of the like very promising startups in this space. And for that reason, I feel this will actually revolutionize the way voting happens, especially in India, जहाँ पे like voter fraud is not exactly a new thing. So this is going to be a really cool thing when it goes forward. So yeah, that is voting. The next thing is climate change. So at the end of the day, climate change is one of the biggest issues which the world is facing. I feel it is the biggest issue humanity is going to face in the coming few years. And the biggest issue with that, and the biggest problem with that is the whole greenhouse gases, global warming thing. And blockchain is actually accelerating that. So this is a very it's a very cool place in New York. It's a building jahan pe it shows the amount of years until the effects of global warming are irreversible. So if this ever hits zero, then that means we're essentially doomed. So, and this is a dynamic thing. It's not like 7 years, 100 days likha hai to khatam. Matlab if something happens, then it decreases it like by a year or a few months, and vice versa. So this is a very interesting building. What this essentially serves is as a reminder to show us that our time is essentially limited if we don't make changes in the current climate scene. And for that reason, these people are finding innovative ways to find all of these solutions. So blockchain ke liye, how it can be moved to proof of stake and all of those things to essentially save a lot of electricity, things like that. तो ये सब सारी चीजें एक एनर्जी का मतलब ब्लॉकचेन कंसोर्टियम है, दे आर डूइंग दैट. अभी वो इलॉन मस्क ने भी कुछ तो खोला था यार, बिटकॉइन माइनिंग काउंसिल और समथिंग लाइक दैट, एंड दे आर आल्सो डूइंग समथिंग. बट दिस इज द एक्चुअल authority on that. These guys are like legit. मतलब they have been there for a while. They know what they're doing. So these are the people who people look up to in terms of making a decision for it. So yeah, that is the thing here. One more thing here is microgrids. So यार ये slide मैंने बाद में डाली थी. अच्छा ठीक है, never mind. So microgrids क्या होता है? These are essentially small electricity के grid के components which are within a certain area. What happens is probably, let's say there is a house A which has a solar panel. तो ये solar panel पे रोशनी पड़ रही है and it's generating electricity to the point where it has generated too much electricity. So instead of storing it on its, let's say, battery pack, which might cost the owner money or whatever, what it does is it sells that electricity into the microgrid. So microgrid is like 5, 10 houses, 20 houses within a small area. And let's say house C needs it. Then it's going to be able to transfer that through the interconnected like wires, and A will earn money for it and C will like pay the money for it. And then there'll be like rates which are associated and things like that with it. So that's a really cool implementation of blockchain, because उसपे क्या होगा, for every kilowatt hour of electricity you sell, you are going to be paid a token on the blockchain. And वो सारा verify हो जाएगा, because at the end of the day, all of that is going to be stored on the chain. Everything is going to be immutable. So when a settlement period comes up, let's say एक महीने के बाद, then everybody will just be able to tally कि तुम्हारा net profit और loss कितना था, and उसके basis पे सारे sort of tally हो जाएंगे. So that is also really cool. So the setup is like there are imbalances in energy in the community of like some homes कि जहाँ पे there is too much here but too little here or whatever. So वही है. And you need to, the only issue here is there is going to be the need for custom infrastructure. So for example, अभी तुम्हारा जो electricity का meter है, that will also be upgraded, जो ऐसे digital होगा, शायद वो IoT based होगा, which will connect to some cell tower or something, and that is going to always be communicating with the blockchain and showing कि तुम्हारा कितना electricity produce हुआ है, तुमने कितना उल्टा भेजा है, all of that stuff. So custom infrastructure is going to be needed, and for that reason all of these like Western countries which have infrastructure ready, they are the ones which are probably going to like implement it first, and फिर I guess India का time आ जाएगा. So yeah, and the thing is, you can create an Ethereum smart contract for financial commitments. Like the commitment can be कि 1 kWh is equal to $1, and when I sell, let's say 10 kilowatt hours, I'll get $10 in my account, and I can use that as credits either to directly like withdraw it into my bank account, or I can use that such that later on, maybe if I need it, I can just directly use that as credit. मतलब जैसे अपना Amazon Pay पे balance तुम डालते हो वैसे. So that is how microgrids work. So that is one of the few energy innovations जो मैंने बात किया microgrids के बारे में. The other one is also switch. So this is something really cool because they are creating a system for accountability within carbon footprints. तो क्या होता है? How carbon footprints work is a very specific example in which, let's say there is a company, it's a factory, okay, which is creating a lot of pollution. The amount of pollution which they create is counted in the amount of metric tons of carbon dioxide which they produce. Okay. सो अगर समझो मेरे कंपनी को अलाउंस है कि मैं 10 मेट्रिक टन ऑफ कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड प्रोड्यूस कर सकता हूं एक साल में, देन इफ आई क्रिएट 11 और 12, देन आई हैव टू पे फॉर दैट 2 का डिफरेंस. ऑन द अदर हैंड, इफ आई जस्ट प्रोड्यूस 8, देन वो जो 2 का डिफरेंस है, आई कैन सेल दैट टू सम अदर कंपनी विच इज पोल्यूटिंग मोर एंड मेक मनी. So that way, my company is actually incentivized to create like better infrastructure within my factory ताकि कम pollution हो जाए, because that money which I will save from that carbon like credits, and when I sell it to somebody else, I will actually gain a lot of money from it. So that is what carbon credits are. When you put that on the blockchain, you are able to create a system of like an integrated system between all of these factories, which will be able to buy and sell these tokens, and that way the people who are less polluting will make a lot of money. And money at the end of the day, as I said, is the incentive for everything. So जब ये सारी चीजें sort of incentivize हो जाएंगे in that particular way, that way we will be able to make sure कि सारा जो pollution है वो कम हो जाएगा, and फिर मतलब ये जो climate का clock है वो शायद reverse में run करने लग जाए. So yeah, any questions here till here? मतलब काफी देर बात कर रहा हूँ. Cool. I will assume कोई question नहीं है तो chat में डाल दो. Environmental strides. So carbon credits के बारे में मैंने अभी बात किया. So that's 1 metric ton of carbon dioxide which is released, and these are easily tradable tokens which allows for increased integrity. मतलब जो भी तुम्हारा factory है, that will be able to held accountable for whatever amount of carbon dioxide which you produce and things like that. So that is there, and you'll be able to easily measure the impact. So if there is like a grading system where the government comes one day and says कि अच्छा ठीक है, जो भी under 10 metric tons create कर रहे हैं उनको A grade, उनको शायद कोई subsidy मिलेगी government के side से, whatever. So that can easily be measured by the amount of carbon dioxide you're releasing, and all of that, if put on a blockchain, can be easily measured. तो वो बहुत आसान हो जाता है. And there is one more thing for the company is called Veridium actually, and they're actually working with koi government, I forgot which government, yeah, Brazil ka koi government hai or something like that, and they're working with this to actually implement this in today's day and age. So these are not use cases which I'm talking about कि ये 5 साल में आएगा 10 साल में आएगा, ये actually आज हो रहे हैं ये सारी चीजें. And that is what is actually really interesting about the blockchain का ecosystem, कि all of these use cases are actually being implemented not just by end users, they are also being like looked into with an eye of interest by the governments, by these big corporations and things like that, because इसमें सबको फायदा दिख रहा है. So yeah, there's also one more called recycle to coin. तो तुम लोग अगर recycling करते होंगे, तुम्हारे जो aluminium के cans होते हैं, plastic होता है, all of that stuff, if you give that for recycling, you essentially get tokens which you can sell, and that actually gives you money. So that's also really cool. So yeah, then we come to ICOs. ICOs is something which a lot of you guys were talking about. So ICOs क्या होता है? They're called initial coin offerings. तो initial coin offering जैसे अपना IPO होता है, initial public offering, जो अपना normal centralized exchanges पे Zerodha वगैरह types पे होता है, not Zerodha, BSE पे होता है, but yeah. So it's a way for people to invest Ether, not just Ether, but any other like cryptocurrency for that matter, into startups. So if there's a startup and they're going to go public, they need to basically raise funds. So instead of like giving people shares, you can tell people to buy tokens within that thing. For example, if I create a Atharv token, then people can buy Atharv tokens and pay me ether, which I can use to like buy infrastructure, pay my employees, whatever. So that is why I would want to raise some money. So this is a good way as opposed to all of these normal methods of raising money, because it's permissionless and effortless. What does that mean? Permissionless essentially means कि अगर तुम्हें IPO करना होगा, मतलब नॉर्मल अपने नॉर्मल जो होता है BSE वगैरह पे, सो उस पे क्या होगा, you are going to have to go through a lot of these legal hurdles. You are going to have to make sure कि तुम्हारे सारे paperwork and everything ready है. But on an ICO you can do it without all of that stuff, because by nature of it KYC कुछ है नहीं. So for that reason you are able to easily put all of these ICOs onto all of these networks, and that way people can invest in your company. तो उनका भी फायदा होता है, because anybody without KYC can invest. But at the same time तुम्हारा भी बहुत फायदा होने वाला है, because you can raise money really fast. So for that reason it's permissionless and it's effortless, and that's really important, because this is what I feel has led to the sharp rise in the number of blockchain startups. Because तुम्हें पता है कि अगर तुम्हें कभी पैसों को raise करना पड़ेगा, you don't have to go to a VC, you don't have to go to let's say BSC to raise it and things like that. तुम बस एक ICO कर लो, बहुत पैसे आ जाएंगे. So that is there, and yeah, that is making VCs worried. So that is there. Bancor is a big coin which did this 150 million. Tezos ने 200 million किया. Filecoin, which works very similar to storage, जो मैंने बोला था, that did 253 million. So all of these are big companies and they're making a lot of money. So yeah, just their logos. A few other things which you guys should know. ICOs can be security offerings. Security क्या होता है? They are anything where you are essentially putting in money and you don't know if you're going to get a return on it or not. That's what a security means. Okay, asset हो सकता है, liability हो सकता है. They all come under the, like, they are called securities. Okay, they may need to be registered. The word here is may. They might be registered, they might not be registered. By registered I mean they might not have a legal entity at all. ठीक है, it might be some random person startup in their garage. That can also be the company which is trying to go for an ICO. So the person who is going to buy into it has to do the due diligence. ये सारा जो भी बंदा buy करने वाला है, that is completely on you. You have to ensure कि तुम्हारे पैसे जहां जा रहे हैं, that is a safe place and things like that. So they may or may not be registered. Then the third thing is token sold in ICO can be called many things. By that it means Bancor coins बोल सकते हैं. Tezos are literally called Tezos. These can be called file coins, whatever. So they are not necessarily called ether. Okay, in the sense that तुम जब ether pay कर रहे हो इसके लिए, you are not essentially going to get ether back. You are going to be getting some other asset back, asset or coin, security, and that may or may not go up in price. So that is what this point is trying to say. ICOs may pose substantial risk. This is very important because यार startups के world में like 99% fail. Not like it's some stat like 99% fail in the first year and 99% of the winners of the first year fail in the second year. So they do pose substantial risks. तुम्हारे पैसे सारे zero हो सकते हैं, but at the same time they have crazy rewards, because if you are able to hit the right one, then you will gain like crazy rewards, crazy like multiples of rewards, like 100x 1000x जा सकता है तुम्हारा investment. So it's a very risk versus reward game. And ask questions before investing. This essentially sums up these 4 points. You have to do your own due diligence, and you should also never invest money which you cannot if you are not willing to lose money, don't invest it. ऐसे समझ लो कि जो भी तुम पैसे not just ICOs क्रिप्टोज में इन्वेस्ट कर रहे हो, that all goes to zero. ऐसे ही समझ के करो, because अगर तुम्हें रिटर्न्स मिल जाता है तो great, you are going to be very happy, but if they go to zero, you should be ready to take that hit. Cool. So Aman is then asking a question: how to take part in ICOs? There is a thing called Balancer. Balancer नाम का एक वेबसाइट है यार, मैं स्पेल नहीं करूंगा. Balancer सबको पता ही होगा. Balancer. So that is where most ICOs happen. So if you have a MetaMask account, you can actually sign up for ICOs there. Cool. Any doubts here before I move on to wallets?
जैसे BSE पैड में भी आते हैं ना ICO, ऑक्कूल में भी अलग-अलग वेबसाइट में भी आते हैं, इसके अलावा ना?
हाँ, इसके अलावा भी होते हैं. बैलेंसर इज द मेन वन, मतलब उस पे बहुत सारे आते हैं और यूजुअली जो भी नए स्टार्टअप्स करते हैं वो यूजुअली बैलेंसर पे प्रेफर करते हैं, बट हाँ बहुत सारे कंपनीज है इसका।
तो
इज इट
उसके लिए
ओनली
कोई मिनिमम अमाउंट होती है क्या, का ही अगर हम इतने इन्वेस्ट करेंगे तभी हमें टेक पार्ट किया जाएगा
होता
आईसीओ
है
में?
यूजुअली, यूजुअली हर चीज के लिए कोई तो मिनिमम अमाउंट होता ही है, बट इट वेरीज वेरी सिग्निफिकेंटली, मतलब ऐसे नहीं है कि हर आईसीओ का मिनिमम $100 ही होगा और समथिंग लाइक दैट, इट्स डिपेंडेंट ऑन द क्रिएटर। तो बट हाँ, टू आंसर योर क्वेश्चन, यस देयर इज अ मिनिमम अमाउंट व्हिच यू हैव टू पुट।
ओके थैंक
प्रणव इज आस्किंग इज इट ओनली मेटामास्क? नहीं, कोई भी वॉलेट, ये जो यहाँ पे ये जो सारे कस्टोडियल वॉलेट्स का जो इमेज था ना, कहाँ गया कहाँ गया कहाँ गया, नहीं इसके पहले, हाँ, ये सारे जो तुम्हारे वॉलेट्स है, any one of these can be used. MetaMask is the most popular, and that is why everyone uses MetaMask. Even I personally use MetaMask. So, well, yeah, like it has the most integrations, it's the fastest, it has the best UI, in my opinion. But people use this more than others. You can still use any other wallet. Speaking of wallets, let's move on to wallets. So, wallets are of two kinds, hot and cold. So, what do wallets exactly do? Wallets basically provide a user interface for blockchain. तो तुम्हारे ये जो सारे interactions blockchain पे होने वाले हैं, all of these transactions which you're doing, things like that, so all of these need a user interface to work from, right? And that can only be done through, let's say, a web page or something like that. So that is what a wallet provides. It essentially provides a way for you to perform all of these transactions on the web. That's it. The second thing it does is it keeps track of your private key. तुम्हारा प्राइवेट की बहुत बड़ा होता है, इट्स अ 256 बिट थिंग विच इज रैंडमली जनरेटेड फॉर यू। याद है वो एसके पी के जो मैंने बोला था, तो ये जो तुम्हारा सीक्रेट की होता है, दैट्स अ रैंडमली जनरेटेड थिंग, इट्स नॉट समथिंग यू कैन रिमेंबर वेरी इजीली। So in order for you to keep track of what exactly you've typed in and things like that, you need a way to keep track of your private key, which is something which wallets do for you. Then the things which you can do with a wallet are store, send, receive and list transactions. Store मतलब जो भी तुम्हें फंड स्टोर करने हैं, यू कैन जस्ट पुट इट देयर। दैट्स व्हाई वॉलेट्स आर समटाइम्स कॉल्ड कस्टोडियल सर्विसेज। कस्टोडियल सर्विस मतलब क्या होता है? यू आर गिविंग कस्टडी ऑफ योर फंड्स टू दैट पर्टिकुलर वॉलेट। इट डजंट मीन कि दैट wallet owns it completely to the point where they will have like full use over it. You are basically telling it कि मैं तुम्हारे यहाँ पे मैं मेरे फंड्स पार्क कर रहा हूँ for a certain amount of time. So that's what a custodial wallet means, and most of these are custodial wallets. So that is what store does. Send and receive जो मैंने बहुत लेक्चर से बोला है, and list transactions. By list transactions it means तुम देख सकते हो कि तुमने अब तक जो भी transactions किए हैं. So that is what a wallet does. And then some other fancy functionalities जो होंगे. One thing to remember is one wallet can handle multiple accounts. A lot of people think कि अच्छा हर account के लिए एक नया wallet लेना पड़ता है. Nothing like that. One wallet, in which case MetaMask, can have multiple accounts, not just in Ether. For example, I can have my Chainlink account in MetaMask. I can have my Ether account in MetaMask. I can have all of my accounts in MetaMask. So one wallet can handle multiple accounts of multiple platforms. So that is what a wallet is supposed to do. Okay, and there are two types, hot and cold. So I'll go into each one really quick. What are hot wallets? So hot wallets are essentially ones which are directly connected to the internet. So these are something which are going to run on your computer directly. तुम्हारा या तुम्हारे phone पे. So it's going to be an app or it's going to be a browser extension of sorts. And that is what's going to always be connected to the internet and is going to allow you to do transactions to and from it regularly. तो अगर तुम्हें फॉर एग्जाम्पल यू आर अ डे ट्रेडर, तुम्हें हर रोज ट्रांजेक्शन करने हैं, यू नीड टू हैव दैट मनी इन दैट हॉट वॉलेट बिकॉज दैट इज गोइंग टू बी कंटिन्यूसली ट्रांजेक्टेड टू एंड फ्रॉम। ऑल्सो द फंड्स नीड टू बी इजिली अवेलेबल। तुम्हें लिक्विडेट करना होगा, तुम्हें फॉर एग्जाम्पल ये जो सारी चीजें है, यू वांट टू कन्वर्ट दैट इनटू फियाट, it should all be very easy and very fast to do, and for that reason you use a hot wallet, okay, because it's always connected to the internet, तो जो भी करना है जल्दी कर सकते हो। तो usually these hot wallets are within the exchange app, तो तुम्हारे Binance के wallet के बटन पे तुम जब जाओगे तो you will see all of the investments which you've done and things like that. So that is what hot wallets are essentially, and it can be in an exchange app or self-managed. In an exchange मतलब Coinbase, self-managed मतलब MetaMask. So that is the main thing. cold wallets. On the other hand, cold wallets is something which are not directly connected to the internet. So these are things which are going to exist on like an external medium. So for example, ये pen drive type पे जगह पे store होगा, ये paper type है, so things like that. Aman is asking, does custodial wallet mean decentralized wallet? Not every time. Custodial wallet can also mean centralized wallet, because तुम्हारा जो sort of Binance पे जो पैसे तुम रखते हो, that is also basically a custodial service, right? तुम तुम्हारे funds उस पे रख रहे हो, it's just that you have no control over it. So custodial wallet is something which stores your funds for a short slash long amount of time. So it's just a term, like it doesn't mean anything. I just wanted to put it out there because like लोग कभी वो word देखते हैं and they're just like, oh क्या है? So yeah. So these are basically devices which are used for long term storage. For example, ये ऐसे pen drive होता है, या ये paper, this is literally a printout which you take. So उस पे ये QR code है which has your public address, and ये तुम्हारा private key है. Note that it says here to import and sign, and यहाँ पे to deposit or verify. So if you wanted somebody to deposit money into this wallet account, you would show them this QR code and then they would be able to sign it and send you money. But if you ever wanted to sign it, like send money from this account, then you would need to use this QR code. कहाँ कैमरा पेन? हाँ. You would need to use this QR code. बहुत circles drop कर लिया. This is for sending. This is for receiving. And जो मैं बोल रहा था 256 bit जो तुम्हारा key होता है, this is your public key and this is your private key. So this is literally stored on the paper. So if you ever want to do a transaction, you will literally have to either type it out or scan that QR code and then copy paste that into like Binance, MetaMask, whatever, if you want to do a transaction. And if you want to, yeah, the wallet generate passphrase, yes, they do. We'll get to that. So yeah, that is mainly for long-term cold storage. The reason for that is you don't want this money to be continuously like traded from. And why would you want a system? जब hot wallet सब कुछ कर रहा है, तो why would you want a cold wallet? So for that, that is because the secret key and the public key are both stored on that medium. मतलब यहाँ पे पेपर पे स्टोर होता है. जब भी तुम नया प्रिंट आउट लोगे, इट्स गोइंग टू क्रिएट अ न्यू पब्लिक की प्राइवेट की पेयर, पुट इट इनटू दैट अकाउंट एंड देन प्रिंट आउट दैट. सो हर बार नया सॉर्ट ऑफ ये बन जाता है. तुम्हारा ये जो पेन ड्राइव है, दैट हैज इट्स ओन पब्लिक की प्राइवेट की स्टोर्ड ऑन दैट पर्टिकुलर पेन ड्राइव, एंड फॉर दैट रीजन it has a lot of safety from hackers and attackers, in the sense that if you wanted to hack that person's like account, if you wanted to sort of transact from it, agar hot wallet hota, तो if you like that secret key is going to be stored somewhere, तुम्हारे कंप्यूटर पे स्टोर होगा. Like if that person basically is able to steal your computer and unlock it, then that person has access to your MetaMask account. अगर तुम्हारे Binance, let's say Binance gets hacked one day, then जो भी सबके उधर पैसे हैं, those are essentially hacked. So ये जो offline storage mediums है, their secret keys are offline, like they're literally stored on that pen drive. So if that person wants to use that funds, they need to steal that pen drive. And बहुत बार लोग ये इस पे डाल देते हैं and literally they put it in a bank vault, because that has a lot of money and it like that pen drive essentially is worth like millions of dollars. So it creates a level of safety from hackers, because these are cold wallets and they cannot be directly interacted with. Like for example, अगर तुम्हें इस cold wallet के account पे transactions करने पड़ेंगे, then you will have to take that pen drive, put it in your laptop, put in whatever password or whatever, and then उसके device पे जो secret key है, उससे ही you will able to do transactions. So that is also like a level of security which is provided. Will MetaMask or other firms store secret key and private key? MetaMask, I think, is like some part of it is open source. So MetaMask ka like people have looked into it and I feel कि secret key public key like store नहीं करते. जो बाकी के firms तुम बता रहे हो, in the sense that जो भी decentralized है, I can't speak for every single one of them, but then if they are like being used by a lot of people, then it means that they are probably doing it. But ये जो centralized exchanges होते हैं, their secret keys and public keys are actually stored on that. मतलब they are stored on their servers. So yeah, are Ledger and Trezor good to use? Are you asking from the Ledger the company? They might be, but again you have to buy these pen drives from a reputable source यार, because I think मैंने बीच में कोई scam देखा था जहाँ पे somebody would basically buy all of these Ledger के pen drives, pre-activate them, हाँ cold wallets, pre-activate them, and then they would send them out for people to buy. So what would happen is अगर तुम तुम्हारे transfer करते हो तुम्हारे account से ledger के उस pen drive में, then they would actually go to that person's account as opposed to वो ledger की pen drive. So you have to buy it from a reputable source. So yeah, now let's move on to one of the questions which a lot of people are asking: why to even buy crypto in the first place? So there are three major reasons for it. The first reason is it's a perfect currency. अपन ने बोला था ये छह चीजें थे, durable, transferable वगैरह वगैरह. It's the perfect currency, and for that reason, it is going to last the test of time. The second one is it's a hedge against inflation. Now, what is this graph? This graph is actually the amount of US dollars which were printed since like 2014, and ऐसे कुछ तो stat था कि 35% of all of the US dollars ever printed were printed in the last year because of COVID. That's a crazy amount, and that is going to lead to long-term inflation. So being able to buy a perfect currency acts like a hedge against inflation because like it's scarce. And the final thing is, which a lot of people try to do, is get rich quick. So you will probably try to find the next Dogecoin, whatever, try to 5x your money and liquidate. So these are the three major reasons why people buy crypto. So then the question then becomes, how do you buy crypto? So in India, I'm going to speak very specifically from the Indian perspective only. So you can create an account on an exchange app. CoinSwitch Kuber is a good one. WazirX is a good one. I personally use Binance because Binance is actually not India based. It's actually based in some other country. Whereas the other two are India based. And because of that, they are under legal jurisdiction of India. So for example, if tomorrow India's government says कि अच्छा ठीक है बंद कर दो, they will have to comply. Whereas Binance won't have to. So I would suggest you guys use Binance. Create an account, मतलब क्या करना पड़ता है, पहले KYC करना पड़ता है. So for that reason, you are going to have to give your Aadhaar card, PAN card, all of those things. And once that gets verified, you can start trading. So you can buy and sell and things like that. It gets stored in a wallet which is managed by the app. That wallet is managed by the app. What does that mean? That means what I had just spoken about. They have like 10-15 accounts, and all of that essentially stores like everybody's crypto. So they are handling all of that security and stuff for you. You are just transacting on their platform for that thing. So that is what that is how the buying part works. So KYC karna padta hai, and that is the whole difference between centralized and decentralized, right? You're going to essentially have to pay. So that is there. The final thing is ban in India. This is a question which a lot of people ask about. Ki kya hoga, kaise hoga? The major answer is government definitely does have valid points. What they plan to do, what they don't want to do, things like that. And yeah, at the end of the day, it makes a lot of sense here. When there is a blockchain system, when there is an Ethereum like ecosystem which is going to take place in India, it is going to create a parallel economy. Like literally, it might happen कि तुम्हारा भाजी वाला, तुम्हारा सब्जी वाला, whatever, he might say कि अच्छा तुम्हें रुपीज में पे करना है या तुम्हें इथेरियम में पे करना है. That मतलब ether में पे करना है. And that essentially creates a parallel economy which no government will ever want in their own country, because that creates a hell load of problems. So that is literally like a national security thing, and that's why they have very valid points about why they are not taking a like they are like completely allowing it or not. But at the same time, they do realize that this is a very transformative thing. It is having a lot of future, and that's why I think they are not banning it out completely. And as I said, they are also looking into how these technological marvels can be used in the country itself. For example, जैसे मैंने बोला चंडीगढ़ का, नहीं तो the thing I spoke about ISB. So they are looking into all of these things. So government definitely has valid points. We are yet to go from banning to regulation. It is never going to be a free market, especially in India. It is just never going to be. You know what? I'm going to stop recording because controversial चीजें बोल सकता हूँ मैं यहाँ पे.